Thanks for the invite for tonight's meeting. As Dave, the chair, said, I'm currently the chair of the Social Justice Party and an activist that's currently helping set up some Your Party branches in my hometown of Scarborough and helping in nearby constituencies. I am speaking in a personal capacity tonight, although we have started a Social Justice Party working group that started to look at these draft documents, and the working group has given me permission to share some of our observations as well. So it's report back from our working group, but it's not like an official SJ position. I'm assuming that everyone on tonight's call agree with the need for a new mass workers' party, and we want it to be truly democratic, and we want it to be 100% committed to socialism. Because I won't go into detail. We know we need an alternative to the horror, the genocide, the brutality, the hardship, the unfairness that are a direct result of the current system we live under. And we really do need that socialist transformation of society that's going to put human need before profit and protect our environment. So just to begin, I'm just going to screen share something a second, which is the current page from the Your Party website. That should just be coming up now. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes, that looks fine.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. So what we've got there, this is the Your Party webpage from today, and it's giving the plan. It's saying that the regional assemblies are about to begin. The draft documents, although delayed, have now been published. And the couple of paragraphs I'd just like to draw everybody's attention to is all members will be able to comment on the draft documents, which is in the second paragraph. And the third paragraph down is talking about, in November, thousands of in-person founding conference delegates will be chosen by lottery on the basis of a balance of gender, region and background. These delegates will have a big responsibility to debate the founding documents, propose amendments and vote on them in the conference at Liverpool. I think a few of us tonight will debate whether someone who is elected, or sorry, not elected, selected via a lottery is actually a delegate, because it's not clear who those people would be accountable to, but we'll come on to that later. That for now is just what the proposed plan is, just to make sure that everyone's seen that as our starting point. So in terms of the regional assemblies, to be fair, there are a lot of people around the country that have volunteered to make these regional assemblies happen. And there may well be some other people on the call tonight that have tried to do that. They've been given a limited budget, they've been given limited time, and certainly the regional assemblies that people are trying to organise, that I'm aware of, are really trying to make these inclusive. They're talking about obviously things you need like a hearing loop, sign language, material printed in Braille, material printed in other languages, but they just haven't at the moment got the budgets to run these in the ways that they'd like them to do. And I think, to be fair to the volunteers, in my experience, the communication from the people that have been appointed to oversee these regional assemblies, the communication has been poor. There's a really good group, the Your Party Connections, which is an independent body that's been set up where delegates from proto branches around the country meet. One of the people from the Central Organising Committee, for want of a better description, did address that meeting a few months ago. And when questions were asked, key questions like, what will be the process if we want to amend these documents when they're out? Can you tell us exactly how it's going to be transparent and democratic and clear? The message we got was, we'll get back to you at a later date. But to date, that information hasn't been given to us. So what we know so far is the first assembly's taken place in Norwich. People may have seen online that there's been a mixture of feedback. Some of the feedback's been positive. They've been described as very friendly, nobody talked too much, hard-working facilitators, etc. But if these assemblies are there to allow us to discuss and amend those documents, then that's where at the moment it's not clear what's happening. Facilitators have reported that they're having to feed back the comments from groups into a Google form. Some groups have reported that they haven't been able to discuss all of the parts of the documents that they wanted to. So I think one of the big questions that a lot of people are asking is, what exactly is the democratic process for amending these documents? Perhaps a truism, but why is it so important to amend these documents? Well, I think as we're about to discover in the next session, there is some good stuff in these documents. Equally, there's some stuff that really does need changing. I think, for example, if we go to the political statement, that was one of the first documents that the working group that I mentioned to earlier that I was involved with. I'll just pull the political statement up. It's only one page. Should be able to see that for everybody. So the political statement there, certainly the working group that we're involved in, on first impressions, people liked a lot of wording in there. It does mention socialist. It does mention the need later down about standing against the war economy, and it is talking about being in favour of public and community ownership. So there was a debate, and I'm sure there'll be possibly a debate tonight about adding more detail to that. Because all what we're doing now, in some respects, is a similar debate to what the early pioneers of socialism had, where the Social Democratic Federation were arguing that the emerging Labour Party should be 100% committed to socialism, and you had groups like the Fabians going, well, steady away, piece by piece. So they're important discussions that are ongoing now, and we're going to have in the future. But like I say, there is some good information in there. In terms of some of the standing orders, for example, one of the things the Campaign for a Mass Workers' Party have been very keen on is making sure we have the mandatory reselection of MPs and other officials. And in the standing orders, section 3C5, I believe it is, it does talk about mandatory reselection, and it does refer to that as like a cyclical primary contest process. It talks about the recall for elected officers as well. It gives an example of if 40% of members in a branch or a unit are unhappy with an elected office, then there is going to be a dedicated recall form. And as well, under section 4 of the standing orders, it does talk about conference is the primary body for determining national policy. That, of course, is based on the assumption that the primary conference itself conference itself is a democratic model that we want it to be. The problems, though, follow. When you have a look at the introduction to the organisational strategy paper, the opening comments to that, a lot of people on the call tonight will be very happy with. It begins, the party shall be, the word unitary is controversial, but a unitary mass party, deeply rooted in socialist tradition and indivisible in the workers' movement. So a very good opening sentence there that I'm sure we'll all agree with. It's, however, when you look at some of the approaches that have been suggested in these papers about how we're going to achieve that and what the new party is going to operate like, that sadly a lot of these examples now appear to be actually a top-down way of organising things, and not based on branches in a grassroots movement. And I'll just show you the next screenshot to illustrate that point. So when we're having a look at the strategic objectives, what we can see there, point 2, is building structures. And it's saying that this requires a small team consisting of a general secretary with limited support staff to deliver these democratic structures and support members to form branches. Well, I think probably everybody on this call may already be involved in a prototype branch, and across the country, workers have organised their own branches already, and proto branches have been set up all across the country. So to have a paper that's indicating that we need a general secretary with limited support staff to do that, it's perhaps an example of a model that's looking at it from a top-down approach. Obviously, I'll let comrades ask questions about that later on. The term oversee is used a lot as well in these documents. That was something that our working group picked up on, where you've got the executive committee overseeing branches as opposed to supporting branches. What the papers don't do is go into detail about things that those of us that are involved in building branches really want to know about, because surely the branch is the building bricks for which we're going to build this new party. It's not specific about what funding branches we'll get. It doesn't provide anything beyond a real short overview of some basic helpful standing orders to make sure branches are run fairly and democratically. We don't mind consistency within the new party, but not this top-down approach. The organisational model, the next image I'm going to share with you, isn't from your party. It's a little summary chart that I've done myself. And again, if anyone thinks there's any inaccuracies in this, please let me know. It's all based on direct quotes from the draft documents. The model that's been suggested for us operating this party is on the left. We can see the leader, and I'll come back to that point in a moment. No mention of a co-leader. The leader is going to be elected between January and March. Then there's the 16 ordinary members that are going to be elected by one member, one vote. It says there's going to be 2 MPs elected. I can't see the process for electing them. It also says there's going to be 2, they're referred to as local or regional public office holders. So that opens it up to, I presume, to county councillors, borough councillors, mayors perhaps. Again, it's not specified. The seats for Wales and Scotland, one would assume they're going to be democratically elected by the nation groups. And then there's the 5 organised sections. When we look at point 2, again, these are quotes direct from the documents. It's talking about the Central Executive Committee electing national officers, the chair, the deputy chair, secretary, etc., who shall make up the officers group. And it's this small group who are going to oversee the day-to-day running of the party. And point 3, a general secretary is going to be appointed, who are going to recruit a director of finance, director of organising, director of strategy. And the model is that the general secretary, in conjunction with those senior staff, are going to be operating the party on a day-to-day basis. Well, that model to me looks very, very, very similar to a model that's in the party that a lot of us have just left. I'm not sure why, as an alternative. I'll just going to move that screenshot up a bit. When you look at the very bottom there, it says the General Secretary, in conjunction with senior staff, is going to present a plan to talk about future staffing structure, regional staffing and reporting mechanisms. Now, surely if we're a mass workers' party that's steeped in the grassroots, then surely things like that could be decided, A, by involvement with branches, B, involvement with democratic regional structures, and B, those positions, finance, organising, strategy, surely there could be positions where people are elected to hold those roles. People have those roles for a defined period of time. And I think the important thing as well is what sort of wage people will be on. Obviously, we want everybody to be getting trade union rates of pay and conditions, and we want to be a good employer. But what we don't want is to create some hierarchy that may be on significant salaries. So that's a big thing for us to debate as well, I think, comrades. By moving on to the next bit, and I've nearly finished, colleagues, just a few more minutes. I think one of the things, so much to talk about, and we'll get on to the debate soon, but one of the things that concerns me about this is I'm thinking of the group of people, young people in my area, that were really enthused on getting involved with your party with this idea that there was going to be two interim co-leaders. They were very excited of the idea of Zara and Jeremy co-leading on this together. And I think a lot of people, thousands of people possibly, have signed up to get involved on that basis. And one of the things that really worries me about these papers is that acknowledgement that thousands of people may be interested in that. It's just not reflected in these papers at all. As we can see there, the document's talking about a leader being represented. And then when we look at this is the final document I plan to share. There may be some others that people want to look at later. But when we look at the area that's highlighted in yellow there, it says in the party's second year, the executive committee shall review different options. So it really looks as if in terms of the draft papers that are done so far, there isn't actually, unless we manage to get an amendment in, the opportunity to explore the co-leadership model. The reason I'm mentioning that is, for me, it's an example of the people that put these documents together, perhaps not listening as well as they say they're doing. And the final thing I'll make on there as well is under the section highlighted in yellow, it's saying that although we're going to have the founding conference in November, from the period between January and March, when the new Central Executive Committee are elected, it's talking about the new party will continue to be stewarded by the Independent Alliance of MPs. Now, why? Why can't we democratically elect some people to act as interim stewards for the new party? Again, that to me would be a much more democratic approach, and to emphasise there's groups, proto-branches and organised groups across the country that could do that. So me concluding comments for tonight so far, comrades, and I'm sorry it's been such a whistle-stop tour. Certainly from the groups I've been involved in, a lot of people are really, really worried about this model that's been proposed of sortition, the lottery. That hadn't been discussed as a possible way forward by any of the key organisations that have been involved in setting up your party in previous discussions. We're really sure about the stewardship being continued by the Independent Alliance of MPs. We're really worried about the way worded at the moment. It's very, very biased towards a one leadership model, despite thousands of people having a different view. And I think the most important thing of all is we really need absolute clarity and transparency on how these documents can be democratically amended. And I think at that stage, I'd just like to thank again people for letting me open up this discussion, and I look forward to listening to what everybody's got to say tonight. Thanks, comrades.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Eric. Hugely useful. Giving some of the positive points and also some of the very many and very strong reservations that perhaps thousands and thousands of people have got.